Let me just take you through in the 15 minutes I've got today, some of the key messages that I want to take you through. And fundamentally, the start point is, why are we looking to change? Well, if you look at it, have we ever been in such a position that we find ourselves in now? 156 billion, that should be billion, not million, worth of debt. We have a situation where the CSR savings of 83 billion are expected to be delivered. Total public sector expenditure, 670 billion. And if you look at the procurement expenditure there, 236 billion. And importantly, 66 billion of that expenditure is in central government. So the clear message must be that good procurement is needed now, more so than at any time in the recent past. So what's different from our perspective, and speaking obviously from a Whitehall point of view? Well, we have a government, and the government has made it its stated #1 priority to tackle and reduce the deficit. We have in the Minister for the Cabinet Office a minister who sees procurement as the means to deliver savings and to deliver the cost reductions in a way, I've been informed, John Swinney has done here in Scotland. We've created the Efficiency and Reform Group within the Cabinet Office, and I'll come on and mention that in a second. And we've also embarked upon a process and a willingness to listen and learn from both the private and the public sectors. So let me elaborate on those points further. The key players. Francis Maud. Francis Maud has done more for procurement in 5 months than probably any of his predecessors over the past 20 years. He genuinely and sincerely has. He shadowed the job probably for more than 18 months. He started planning on what he was going to do from a procurement perspective before he took office, and he hit the ground running. He has personally led the renegotiation of major contracts with our major suppliers, attending each and every one of the 19 meetings and the follow-up meetings. And how many ministers have done that and showed that level of commitment to procurement in the past? He has made quite clear through his communications and even last Thursday, his oral questions to the House, answers to the House, that mandation and centralisation will be key planks of the Whitehall strategy. We believe we've got to move beyond collaboration. And the other thing Francis Maud did, along with Danny Alexander as the Chief Secretary of the Treasury, was creating the Efficiency and Reform Group. And the Chief Operating Officer, and its government's first Chief Operating Officer, is Ian Watmore, a proven professional in both the private and public sector. He had successful careers in the private sector before he joined as the Permanent Secretary for Education, then moved to become the Permanent Secretary of Biz, and then he became the Chief Executive of the Football Association for a short period of time, and then came back to do this very, very important job in the Cabinet Office. Now, Ian's responsibilities are significant. He's responsible for a wide range of key functions, ranging from HR, finance, property, IT, and procurement, very much viewed as fundamental to driving through the changes. Learning from the private sector. It's been mentioned 3 or 4 times today. I even attended Nikki's session and she mentioned the name twice. Sir Philip Green. I spent the first 3 weeks of my job working with Sir Philip Green, and it was a wonderful experience. It was challenging, and I think what Sir Philip did was he short-circuited a process that would normally take us 3 months or so, and we short-circuited that to the point where it was done in about 4 weeks. Now, the results of the Green Review have been well publicised. In fact, I think every newspaper in the UK ran with those stories, with the probable exception of the Glasgow Evening Times. But virtually every other newspaper ran with the stories. So I'm not going to spend too much time going through the detail. But what I will say, just to counter some of the key messages, all of the data that Sir Philip used in his review was provided by us, the civil service. And I think it was an extraordinary feat to actually obtain that information and to provide that information within the short period of time that we were given. Now, Sir Philip was absolutely correct when he mentioned that the variance in prices are quite simply unacceptable. And all of the prices and the variances that we gave were true, realistic prices, like-for-like prices. It wasn't comparing an apple with an orange, it was comparing the same branded paper or the same HP cartridge or the same laptop computer. So it did emphasise the opportunity that exists for Whitehall and government departments to get their act together. I did try and mention to Sir Philip that what he would like to mention within his report is some of the good work that's taken place within departments, because some departments have done really, really well over the past 3 to 4 years. HMRC, DWP, Home Office and MOJ, in my opinion, would go head-to-head with any private sector organisation with the complexity and expenditure being managed. But that wasn't part of the story that was published, obviously. But that message itself indicates the opportunity and the issue. The issue is in Whitehall, the departments have primacy. In fact, because of the previous OGC regime, where we focused on procurement capability reviews, we almost created an environment where departments were incentivised to compete against each other. So where we have had very good siloed procurement operations across a number of the major departments, what we haven't done terribly well is leverage that expertise, leverage those best prices, leverage that best practice on a horizontal basis. And that's what we have to do more and more of. And I think the key message that Sir Philip mentioned, or referred to, but this was a decision that Sir Francis Maude had already made some weeks beforehand, was that the centralisation of commodity expenditure, those commonly used goods and services, which we estimate to be about £13 billion per annum, must be done under a central mandate. It must be done. We can no longer rely on departments to compete against each other to get the best price. We must leverage when it makes sense to do so. Models that the private sector have been doing for years. But it's not just the private sector that I believe we can learn from in Whitehall. In fact, I think we're naive and extreme if we think that all of the answers rest or lie within the private sector. I think we've got to look beyond the UK. We've got to look beyond the boundaries of Westminster. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here today. And one of the reasons why I'm genuinely thrilled that Alistair gave me the opportunity not only to talk with you, but to actually listen to you. And after the session today, I will be spending time with Alistair's teams, understanding more on the good work you've done with regards to the information procurement hub, with regards to your suppliers portal, particularly keen to see what you've done with the quick quotation. Very impressed with what you've done with SMEs, and I think it's up to us now to start learning from each other. It's good to see Des and Roy from Northern Ireland here today, because the other thing I've learned in my role is that we can learn from the good work that the team do in Northern Ireland with regards to the sourcing and management of categories. So I believe we've got to do more and more. And we will suffer if we believe that the best practice and best thinking resides within Whitehall, because I think we can learn from each other much, much more effectively. So, what's changed from the past? The new government have been in place for 5 months. Most of the civil servants are still the civil servants that were in place. So what's really different? Because people would be right in saying we've seen it before. So what's really different? Well, the biggest difference, ladies and gentlemen, was the budget cuts last week. CSR 10 will see 83 billion taken off departments that have to be saved over the next 4 years. Not the savings that we've operated with over the past 3 or 4 years, when departments have actually been increasing expenditure, when that model was demonstrating our best practice at managing expenditure well, increasing expenditure well. The real challenge for us procurement professionals now is to help our businesses, help our departments realise the significant cost reductions that all of us have been given. And that's the fundamental difference. There is no hiding place anymore for procurement professionals. From a Westminster perspective, we have the mandate from Francis Maude to centralise and mandate commodity procurement. We have to build the capability, and we have to build that capability quickly to make sure that we can effect centralised procurement on a mandated basis as effectively as possible. And that's one of the programmes that I'm currently leading, with the aim to have that capability in place by the end of March 2011. Historically, that would probably have been an 18-month programme. We've given ourselves 6 months to implement that change. Thirdly, we are managing our top suppliers as one entity. Not as every department taking their little bit, because that's a supplier's delight. The divide and conquer rule has never been more prevalent when it comes to government expenditure. So what we've done, again under the Minister's personal leadership, is to identify government's top key critical suppliers and to manage them and to make them fully aware that the game has now changed. They will be managed by the Crown. We do not expect different rates across different contracts from the same supplier. We don't expect to see different ranges of margin. In fact, we definitely do not expect to see margin on margin on margin with the long supply chains that we've helped to create. So those are some of the changes and those are some of the messages that are taking place in Westminster. And where I'm really interested to understand what Scotland have done better is we must significantly improve the quality of our data. The current process of gathering data by departments for the last financial year in the October of the following financial year leaves us in a position where at best our data is 7 months out of date and at worst it's 19 months out of date. We've got to move to the position where we are as good as Scotland when it comes to capturing, managing and using data to better improve the supply chain and reducing down our expenditure. Results to date. Well, every department and every department commercial function contributed to the 6.2 billion cuts at the start of the year. An early result is in travel. Sir Philip's review, that's the last time I mentioned it today, referenced the difficulty we had in identifying travel data. But actually, once we did identify that travel data and baselined it and then recorded the 5 months expenditure this year, we were surprised to discover that we're currently 32% down in travel, as a direct consequence of departmental best practice in managing travel professionally and the new austerity measures that the new government implemented. If that 32% is maintained over the course of the financial year, the travel baseline of 551 will be reduced by £150 million, just for one category, the quality and the importance of data. The major supplier renegotiations are on target to deliver £800 million worth of savings this financial year and to deliver sustainable savings over the lifetime of the contracts that are remaining. And finally, all departments, OGC and buying solutions are currently positively contributing to the development of a new target operating model for delivering centralised mandated commodity procurement. So the closing messages are simply this. Do you take the approach where the glass is half empty or the glass is half full? Because if you read some of the trade press and you are a public sector procurement professional, I can understand why you might think that this is probably the worst time to be involved in procurement within the public sector, because the way the negative messages have been portrayed last week. Now, I, for one, don't subscribe to that point of view, because I honestly believe that the time has never been better for good procurement professionals to shine. And that's my message to you, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to seeing you this evening and hopefully to sharing something stronger than a glass of water. Cheers.